podcast. I'm Dr. Maria Oldfield. Today I want to speak to you about AI regulation. So every time I do a talk, everybody says, "Oh, let's just regulate it. Let's just do some legislation." Yeah, the EU AI Act. And unfortunately, yeah, this is not how this works. So where you've got maths and statistics, that turned into data science, then it turned into machine learning, then it turned into AI, and it's all basically the same thing. It's maths and statistics. So if you want to legislate and regulate, you're talking about basically regulating maths and statistics, which is not anything that you can really do. You might want to talk about legislating and regulating software implementations, which there's been steps made towards doing that in terms of classifying models as high risk or not. And I mean, that's been done in the UK government for a long time. The EU AI Act has tried to do it again. I'm not sure it adds anything to the categorizations. It might formalize them or provide a platform for discussion. But I think ultimately the EU AI Act is pretty vague in terms of how people should use it and how they should view it. One problem with that is translating something like that into um, actionable insights. So if you've got a big law, how do you ensure that people can abide by it? So what you're then trying to do is tell developers and people involved in these large modeling teams that are basically doing math statistics and computer programming that they need to do X, Y, and Z to be compliant. Now that's not entirely clear what that is on the ground, what it is that you need to do. What you do need to do is follow some sort of best practice, like I gave in my last video, the best practice pipeline on how you develop robust and ethical AI. And that was developed in conjunction with industry, academia, a lot of different experts on the steering panel. And it's the foundation of the professional accreditation that I run. Now, that is a really good guideline on how to do this stuff because otherwise there isn't anything. Now, you might be surprised by this, but there are no formalized teaching and assessment criteria within the UK at least to tell you how to produce robust and ethical AI, program this stuff, develop this stuff, build this stuff. And that's because the field, as I was just saying, has developed so fast from basic maths and statistics up to a point where we're now doing hugely complex models. And what else has happened there is the theory and the best practice got lost. And that is why there is no formalized teaching and assessment, because that has to be based on formalized best practice. Now, I've invented and been using and train on robust and ethical best practice for AI, and it works, and we've seen it work. And I use it to reverse engineer software in course. I use it to reverse engineer software that I'm validating or verifying or changing or checking or assuring, and I use it to build this stuff. There is some attempt to translate the EUAI Act into standards. That's not necessarily being achieved in the way that it probably should be, because the right experts aren't doing this, the right groups aren't doing this. The motivation for anybody to do this could be ego and political awareness and self-promotion rather than actually translating something for the good of their profession. And there's a gap there because professional bodies for AI haven't existed up until recently. Now that professional bodies do exist for AI, there is a place that you can go and you can sign a code of conduct. You can become accredited. You can get letters after your name to show that you can do this stuff. You can pass the application to get that kind of thing. Now that is starting to plug the gap. And this is what I've worked on since I did my doctorate. I've worked on plugging the gaps, both in education to make sure people are adequately educated to build, implement, use AI. I'm working on citizen literacy so that the general public can be aware of what AI is and the risks of it. And I'm working on early careers work. So there's a big gap between university and what happens to people after university. How do they continue their training? Well, at the minute, what I found out from my London Mathematical Research School is people are going on Coursera and LinkedIn. These courses are not assured. They're not in any way given a quality stamp that that is something that you need to know, should know, is good to know, is a helpful process to follow. And they do not follow best practice because they aren't using the best practice that's been put together, because that is currently being negotiated into a textbook. So as far as they're aware, it doesn't actually exist unless they've gone and looked at my best practice frameworks. So we're in a little bit of a problem area at the minute, and we're coming out of the other end in terms of we are starting to plug the gaps. But as it stands at the minute, there isn't enough expertise in the legal sector to start with to build legislation or regulation. We've just had a call for evidence from the UK government about, and I mean, it kind of boggles the mind as to why this was even a question. We automatically trust software in court cases. Should we? The answer is no. Of course we shouldn't. People build this stuff and it can be wrong. You know, there's many, many, many ways in which this stuff can be wrong, and it's got to be thoroughly tested. It's got to be built right. It's got to be transparent. We can't just buy software and start getting output from it and then putting people in prison based on that, or building regulation on it. It has to be fully tested and built correctly. So no, we can't trust this. Horizon happened a long time ago. I thought we'd learned that lesson then. This question shouldn't be being asked now. It should have been asked a long time ago. But as we are being asked this question now, and many professional bodies and industry and academia have put their opinions in, and my opinion is no, we can't trust this. You need somebody like an advanced practitioner in AI, a chartered statistician, etc., to go in and look at it and check it and make sure it works. You need to be provided with all of the paperwork that sits behind it, the transparency that I've gone over in my pipeline video, that you need to provide so that it's it's usable for what you want to use it for, it's fit for purpose, etc. So yes, there is a problem in regulation and legislation of AI, and that starts with, how do you regulate and legislate an academic subject? How do you teach that? Because you have to teach people what to do before you can hold them accountable, because otherwise you can't hold them accountable because you never taught them how to be compliant. You need professional bodies to support that. You need to train legal professionals to understand what they're legislating and regulating. You need the right experts in the room that are there for, reasons of pushing forward their discipline, not self-promotion. And only then can you start to make the small steps forward that it's going to take to put in place reasonable, ethical, fit for purpose legislation and regulation. If you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Check out my other videos. If you've got any questions, please do send them to me. If you've got any other things that you want me to cover on this podcast, then do let me know and we will try and cover them. Have a great day.